this is an added-in section, because after the production of this particular piece, I realized that there was a need to provide a little further background for those who may not have received the other preliminary material. And that will help them from having their minds wander. Now, in the course of my discourse, you will find I'm using regular, generic, colloquialized English to communicate. When I say something such as him or her, and I'm going to use as an example him, don't consider that I am excluding females by any means, way, shape, or form. That would be ridiculous. But you can think of it as, when I'm saying him, as in the creator, I know that that is anthropomorphizing or putting a human form on the creator, which is not my intent at all, because that also would be ridiculous. But when I say him, it's just a way and manner in which to communicate so that it could be understood. I'm speaking of the creator. And you can even think of it as an acronym. HIM, H-I-M, being the hidden inner mind, the hidden inner meaning, method, manifestation. This is what is meant by him. It is that hidden inner it, which is you, and all the rest of all which is. You may also hear me use Middle English terminology such as God from time to time. That also, we understand, has a different connotation, and we could go into the etymology and the history of the word. But so as not to be confusing with others, you can also consider that in a manner in which one might think of a acronym as well. God, you can think of as being the geometry of order of the divine. The geometric order of governance of the domain of all which is. Okay, so as the geometric order of the divine, as an acronym, GOD, might help one's mind from wandering should they hear that term. Okay? And if you should hear something such as Lord, okay, we're talking about in the context of the order which has been resolved, the divine, the bestow. We're talking about love. We're talking about total altruistic character, free of, absolutely free of all ego. Your most upper state of being. All right. Also, there is no disrespect intended when I'm stating in the written preface that much of this material is material that should be taught or should be a part of the teaching within the temple, because that's true, but it's not necessarily the fault of the temple per se. Metaphysics is like any other science. More science has to be learned. It's not something that you just pick up serendipitously or that just comes to you, just manifests in your mind. It's like any other discipline. One must study. Now, my study has been long. Longer probably than perhaps the majority of sheiks Rishikeses have been alive. In that over my 30-odd years of studying, which actually began at age 12, I sat down and I wrote out, in the matter of time that it took me to write it down, pretty much without thought, a statement to myself which has always stayed with me, somewhat like a cosmic lifeline, if you would. When I was 12 years old, about to have my 13th birthday, was the day before, I sat down and I wrote something for my father. And when I initially sat down, I was thinking that I was going to write a poem or whatever and freed my mind of thought. And what I wrote out was without break, almost spontaneously. And what I wrote was this: stages and phases are psychological mazes, guiding you upwards as do stepping stones to a higher plane of mind. The pace of a crawl following a fall is progressive from a walk and then a run, but with a lapsing time, perspectives will broaden in your mind and render you the endurance to climb. So climb on, Jonathan. Now, when I provided that to my father, I received a very much of the opposite reaction than what I was given. And he has since then apologized profusely on many occasions for having said that it was plagiarized, because it made sense for him to think that that is not something that would have been coming from a 12-year-old child. And rightfully so. It was not until decades later that I was able to understand that at that particular point in time, I was acting in the capacity as a conduit through which the information was passing, but not from another being or individual or person or spirit. It was from myself to myself. I'll explain that. In the realm of consciousness, there is no space nor time. So consciousness simply is. And there is no difference or in distance from your consciousness now and your consciousness in the future. Not in the way that we consider distance. There is a distance in your understanding of the things which you will understand in the future. But there is no distance in space, because in that particular realm is outside of our space-time continuum of this particular dimensional plane. There is no up, no down, no left, no right, no in, no out. It is a world of expressions through sensation and feeling. This corporal, objective reality in which objects reside operates on a very different body of rule sets. Einstein formulated it as M equals mc squared, which is dealing with matter and the relativity of that, and of course a great deal more. So what occurred was I had provided that to myself from a later point in time, a future point within the existence of my own consciousness, almost as a lifeline to continue to draw me forward and give me the reason because I had the information existing as empirical evidence of something greater. And it was by my providing this information to myself that I never had a doubt as to whether or not the course of my study was going to lead me to what it was that I was seeking. As in, seek and ye shall find. Man, know thyself, and to thyself be true. Excuse me. Yes, hello?
Hello, Jonathan.
Yes, brother.
This is...
Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
Under the MOOR's National Identification Card form, it asks for an autograph in red, passport style photo, right thumbprint in red.
Yes.
Where do we get the thumbprint from?
From your thumb. Yes, you would just go to whatever smooth surface that you have. You would use some ink, and you would place your thumb in the ink, and then you would place it on the document.
Okay, and that would be on the same form, the same MOOR national ID card form, right?
Correct.
Okay, so we have autograph. Now, when it says the autograph, which autograph is it pertaining to, on the proclamation, or is it pertaining to something else altogether?
No, it's pertaining to your autograph. You are the one that's signing it, and it is your thumbprint. Your thumbprint is the most definitive manner in which to identify yourself, because it is unique to yourself. And your signature is a attesting to the fact that that is your thumbprint.
Okay. And so on the same sheet with the thumbprint, we just put our autograph right there, the same.
Yes.
Okay, great.
All right.
We'll send it off now, and we already upgraded.
Very good. Okay. All right. Well, I'm in the.
We gained access once we did it.
Okay. Excellent. Very good. Okay. Well, I'm in the middle of a production at the moment, and I can certainly get back with you if you like, brother.
No problem. That is the main thing. All right. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Talk to you soon.
Peace and prosper. All right. I apologize for that. All right, getting back to where we were. Although I have not yet actuated or effectuated that particular sending of the information to myself, I know that that will occur because I already have the information in my mind. Okay? So it's by my pure attainment of that information, from it residing within my mind, within my physical neural fiber network, I am aware that I am on the correct path of enlightenment to ensure that I will have the means by which to send that to myself, because there would be no other means nor manner by which I would have that information if this was not something possible. So it has already occurred, but yet I have not yet effectuated it. All right. So at age 12, that's when I began my studying of those things that would lead me into the deeper understandings of much of what I will be providing to you. Of course, it went through many years of studying such things as the Mentu Netta, the Torah, understanding Cabala, other esoteric, what they would say, occult, which just simply means hidden mysteries. Mysteries only being that there are missed stories in which I was able to provide myself those broken links in the chain of understanding. And this is the information that the temples should be providing as it relates to Moorish science, because it's about the scientific methodology of understanding the facts regarding the nature of self that allows one to make those evolutionary transmutations inward, to have the be afforded the ability to utilize the full functionality of the metaphysical aspects of Moorish science. Now, if you ask someone what is Moorish science, and they give you some type of nebulous response, or they don't explain to you that it's metaphysics, and as a major aspect of that, of course, there is astrology, cosmetology, cosmology. Those are all dealing with systems and the understanding of the greater system. The subset are physical world, and the superset, the other regions, plural, which we are a minuscule part of. Now, if they give you a nebulous type of response, almost parabolic in nature, it means they don't know. But pride goeth before a fall. There's nothing wrong with not knowing. What is wrong is in trying to convince someone that you know when you don't. So, science, just as if you were to go into your kitchen, and let's say you were to, do a, Betty Crocker cake mix, chocolate food cake mix, and you would utilize a scientific methodology by which to make sure that you followed every step of that recipe. Through cause and effect, the cause being that you are following all of the instructions, and the effect being the outcome of what you receive. That's the scientific methodology, following the correct steps. You're not going to walk out of there with a bowl of orange jello. You're going to walk out of there with a chocolate food cake, because you followed the scientific methodology. So the Prophet, having placed the term science so appropriately within the center of the naming of the temple, Moor Science Temple, was not happenstance, serendipity, kismet, not by chance. He was informing us that it is so important to understand the scientific methodologies in order to religion oneself back with the cultural, scientific understandings of our ancient forebearers. And it is through that religioning, reconnecting, realigning, reattaching of oneself, where on a neurofiber network level that is actually biologically cellular in nature, you are doing a remapping of that neurofiber network and repairing the short circuiting that has gone on through the misteachings, keeping in mind that if most of what you know has been taught to you by those who have historically never had your best interests at heart, then you can expect that most of what you believe or think you know is not for your own good. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to go into explaining very specifically the operative aspect of the functionality of the science of MOOR science. We'll learn about the principal tools of attainment and the methodology of the system, the building of an additional sense, a sixth sense, that enables a person to sense and enter an upper reality that we call spirituality. The method how to enter spiritual worlds. Let's look at the primer. Okay, we're looking at the creation of the creature in 4 phases, we being the creature. And we'll see that creation begins with thought, consciousness. And the thought of the creator was to create a creature that it could fill with delight. Okay. And the will to receive is the creature, us. And we feel the quality, and since we are ego, a will to receive, we will feel that pleasure. And what will happen is, where an understanding is that since we are all which is made to receive, opposed to that which is the giver is complete altruistic, non-selfishness, love in its purest sense. We, in our receiving of that pleasure from our divine creator, we begin to have a desire to be similar in nature to that divine being. Yet we have been created in the total opposite phase of that, but for a reason. And we come to understand that the pleasure we feel is coming from the giving. And we feel an emptiness. And in that, a new discernment happens. And we discover that our existence depends on the perception of the light. And we must accept portions of the light. And we decide we'll only accept a small portion of the light because it's here that the Creator force wants us to receive. So we accept a small portion of it because we realize that it is the Creator's intent for us to receive this which the Creator is bestowing upon us. Okay? And here, in this perception, in this dual phase, we realize that there's an even higher aspect of the force that created it, is that it wants to fill us with complete delight. And this next phase, this 4th phase, is unlike anything before it. Not an action done by the Creator, but an independent desire through us. And this desire is not a desire for direct desire of the light. We realize here that the statute of the Creator, and we desire that. We realize that we're the receiver and how different we are from the Creator. So instead of wanting to do that, we want to actually become similar to the qualities of the Creator. So this is where we find ourselves at this point. We have made a restriction of the manner in which we will receive. We're now saying that we will receive for the purpose of also giving pleasure back to the Creator. And it's in these processes, these particular graduated steps, mechanisms, vehicles, the mechanical rudimentary aspects of how to go through these processes utilizing the sixth sense that will be explained to you, and how we will break this down in a manner for you to operatively begin to lift yourself out of the condition and position of your persuasion into a light of understanding, of perceptibility, to consciousness, and a reawakening of what is inherently instilled within you as a capability. And all of this is natural, the way in which we were created. All right? Now, understanding that giving is completely opposite to the nature in which we were created. Because we were created as a creature to receive the unbounded love of our Creator. And by us wishing to reverse that phase by becoming similar in nature to that which bestows, is reversing or modifying the phase in which we were created. But that too was purposeful. Okay? And being determined to find a way to be opposite of what we were created by becoming giving in nature, we began to build systems for ourselves of interactions with varying degrees of proportion between the will to receive and bestow, and we will rise as a result of receiving greater and greater semblance of form, closer and closer to that which we want to become, rising up through those things we call worlds, which are built for the correction of the creature by the Creator. And as we rise, we obtain the inner quality of the worlds, which are called life giving ladders of attainment, as in Jacob's ladder. And we'll explore what those realms or ranks of the ladder are, and help you to begin the process of moving forward. Because without having the ability to understand Moorish science in the applicable, functional manner in which is required in order to be able to manipulate those things which are in this solid realm, out of which it came from the subjective realm, then we have no opportunity other than through lip service or parroting uplift fallen humanity, because that is for a lack of a more suitable term, spiritual operative functionality that does not occur here on this nominal plane. It doesn't transpire, it's not effectuated from this corporal reality. It must be done from the subjective or spiritual plane, because that's the nature of this. So, we'll proceed. Good morning, good day, and good evening. I'm Jonathan Bay, and this is More Talk episode 11.1. I'm using my little notepad here just to keep track of things. But in the previous episode 10 and 10.1, where 10 is a series, and it's dealing with metaphysics. And just as a simple recap, very brief Reader's Digest encapsulated version of what transpired there. You can always go back and look at it. It was dealing with the understanding of our fractal trinary system, the cause and effect of our realities, plural, and the primal rudimentary aspects of our metaphysical operative functionality of Moorish science. Our objective and subjective planes, those realms of perception and reality, and that there exists a larger system of reality in which our objective reality sits within as a subsystem. Episode 11 and this episode 11.1 is going to be delving back into the aspect of more science that deals with Cabala, or Cabala as some people mention what it is. And we went over the fact that it is not Jewish mysticism or Hebrew mysticism, or more correctly, Hebraic or Hebraic mysticism. All right? What it is science, and more specifically, Moorish science. And now that we're in this new awakening, this new renaissance, new enlightenment period, coming out of this third dark age, in our Aquarian era, the rise of the MOOR. We are exploring the functional utility of actual operative functionality of metaphysics. How one can, in their real world, day-to-day existence, apply these sciences in a manner in which you will be able to effectuate that which you want to bring to fruition in your life through will. All right? So we'll begin. I'm taking a break just a moment to share with you something. I've been receiving emails and other communiques inquiring about what I utilize for medicinal purposes with respect to prostate cancer that I was diagnosed with a few years ago. And one of the things that I use, actually, this is primarily for my sciatic nerve pain, and doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the prostate cancer. All right, what I deal with for the prostate cancer, and this is not a commercial by any means. I don't have any investiture stock or receive anything for what I'm about to share with you at all. There's no type of partnership program or anything that I'm dealing with. So what I'm telling you now is just to share with the community and family those things, so they'll better understand what it was that worked for me. Now, I don't know if you know this or not, but it is against the law to state that anyone has a cure for cancer. All right. Now, you should, if you're interested in this, look up a doctor back in the 30s. Oh, by the way, again, my animals are here with me, so if you hear noise in the background or what have you, it's these guys. All right, these guys down here. One is a pit bull chihuahua mix. He's called Mickey. All right, Mickey. Turn around and say hello to the folks. All right, that's Mickey. And the other one is a bird dog and Saint Bernard mix. All right, they're always wanting to talk with me. So if you're hearing that kind of noise or me leaning over like this and opening the door, that's what's going on. All right, so those are the distractions that you'll hear, and I apologize for that. All right, so one of the things that I use is called Alka-Green. Okay, and what it does is it assists with the, which way to put this, with the pH factor, all right, and balancing of your system. It's basically a powder, green barley powder, which you mix with any of your juices and things. It's an acquired taste, but after you acquire it, it's not bad actually. But initially it's horrible. I've never understood what it meant when someone said an acquired taste until I tried this. And now I know. You can actually acquire a taste for something. What I also use is called marine bioplankton. All right. Now, marine bioplankton is the very first animal which would be on our food chain, and it is grown in purified seawater in capsules. And there's about, this is a new bottle that I just got, there's about 1 billion or more of those life forces that exist in here. And it's the radiant energy of those life forces that do what they do. What I also do for the balancing is a pH protector drops that I put in my juice or water throughout the day. And water, of course, is extremely important. Flushing your system continuously, as well as supplying that needed oxygen and the rest to through your venal system into your blood supply. Now, what I call almost a miracle concoction here is a 3-part concoction: wormwood, black walnut, and the third is, it'll come to me in a moment, but I'll show you the bottle. And you can, let me see if I can get this so you can read that. Okay. And this tri-mixture is nothing but the truth. If you go on the internet and look at that, matter of fact, hold on, I will tell you exactly what it is. So pause with me 1 second. All right, so it is a herbal extract of wormwood, black walnut, and clove. Wormwood, black walnut, and clove. All right? Nothing but the truth. Google that, research it, and you're going to find some phenomenal. Now, this is dealing with health support. But basically, any type of cancer you might be dealing with, because what it does is it creates an environment within the system in which the cancer cannot exist. Cancer is actually a life force that puts out a secretion that that makes your cells mutate and grow erratically. Okay, it's not something that just happens. It's an actual evasive alien within your system that wreaks havoc on your cells. And this changes the environment so that it reestablishes your proper pH balance, which makes the environment non-conducive for that life form. And thirdly, what I use is called a Rice frequency generator. All right. Now, this frequency generator has various numbers, as you can see on the front here, that you dial in. And there are particular frequencies for almost everything, anything that might be ailing you, to tell you the truth. That when you put in these particular frequencies, and the way that it is sent through your body is actually through these, which you hold on to, and it goes through your body all the way through and makes the connection on the other side. Okay, and that is a system that if you were to Google and look up, Dr. Rice is the name. Put in Dr. Rice and cancer, and you'll find it back in the 30s. He, for all intent and purpose, found a system that eradicated cancer, all types of cancer, through frequency. Now, another aspect of that I utilize that has the same plugins here on this end, okay, is one that has crystals, right? And you can hold these in your hand operatively just like the metal ones, all right? But the crystals don't necessarily need to be held in your hand. You can place these within the room, within proximity. And what they'll do is they'll send out particular wavelengths that support health, and also stimulate your own particular frequency wavelength once you can establish that and harmonize that. And also blocks the negative ones, because we're always bombarded with electronic frequencies from everything: radio, television, microwave signals of all sorts. So these things are passing through our bodies constantly. And what this does also is it can set up a barrier to protect, to basically cancel out some of those negative frequencies that we're bombarded with. Okay.
all of us, when we're born, we come here, first of all, out of choice. And we all have our particular resonant frequency. It's like a signature, unique to each individual. No one has the same frequency. However,
very shortly after birth, because of the nature of the vibration of this world, this subjective reality, our frequencies are thrown off into a discordant pattern. Some of the frequencies that make up our particular unique signature are lost, and some are untuned, what they would call discordant. And through the recalibration of one's resonant, unique vibratory frequency, you can actually recalibrate the proper tonal factor of your unique signature frequency, which reestablishes those missing harmonics, and those that are there that are discordant, it retunes, so that you then have a correct vibration as originally intended, so that you will be in sync and in harmony with this world, with this physical reality, or perceived physical reality, which still has rule sets, cause and effect. Cut me, I bleed. So by no means am I ever saying that there are not the realities that we've always expected to be with respect to the implications of cause and effect, and most certainly are. However, those are still nevertheless perceptions, which will, in this episode 11.1, are going to go into assisting you to understand through explanations of Cabala or Cabala the purpose and reason for this domain, our existence here, our purpose, and what it is and how it is that we can return to that state in which we were intended by our divine purpose to exist. All right? So much for that. As I said, these are not commercials. I don't have any profit sharing type of investiture in this. It's just simply what I utilize and what has worked for me. When I was diagnosed with prostate cancer, I informed my physician that I wanted to go this route, I guess some might call it Eastern remedy route, with natural Asiatic herb. And by doing my research, I was able to come across that which worked for me, okay, such as the wormwood, clove, and black walnut abstract. This is a miracle concoction. Look it up, do your research on that. And then lastly, this is called trance minerals, and this when your body is depleted of its proper mineral balance, this is what can restore that in an extract form. You don't want to be using too much of that. And with all of these things, again, check with your physician, just as I did, prior to beginning any type of regimen, because you may be on some other medications. Seems like all of us have been placed on so many medications that we really need to try to wean ourselves off of, as I have, and just deal with a regimen of a more proper diet, getting away from the red meats. I do still, from time to time, have fish, and I like shrimp. Some people have to be careful with that because some people have allergies to crustaceans, which are things with shells. Oysters and crabs and shrimp, and seafood of that nature. But if you don't, I happen to really enjoy seafood. But I don't eat red meat anymore. Nor, of course, I've never eaten pork. Even as a child, it repulsed me, just naturally. And lastly, that's just a personal decision that one would make, but it's certainly important to always try to, whenever possible, drink as much water, of course, as possible, and always try to take care of your health. And you can't get too much of this. Well, actually, you can't get too much. You can drink too much water to the extent where you throw off your electrolyte system. Because as bio-avatars, we're basically, for all intent and purpose, an electrical system. Everything operates off of electricity in our body, our hearts, the rhythm of our heart. Every time that we move, it's moving a muscle.
Calcium ions are stored in the sarcoplasmic reticulum and are released in response to signals from the nervous system to contract. Neurotransmitter molecules are released from a neuron and bind to receptors, which depolarizes the membrane of the muscle fiber. The electrical impulse travels down the T-tubules and opens calcium stores. Calcium ions flow to the myofibrils, where they trigger a muscle contraction. As the actin and myosin slide along each other, the entire sarcomere shortens as the Z lines draw closer to the M line. As the sarcomeres in myofibrils contract, the entire muscle fiber will shorten.
That has a little spark that actually twists the muscle and contracts it, and that's what makes muscle operate. Muscles are fascinating to study. And throwing off your electrolyte system is not good by any means. It's certainly important to have a proper electrolyte balance for your brain, because all that is electrical impulses. Now, just as a quick example, when we hear something, let's say we're listening to music, and the speaker resonates, sending out a vibrational pulse. That vibrational pulse moves the air, and with the movement of the air at a particular frequency or wavelength, it hits our eardrum, which also moves in a similar fashion to the filament on the speaker, which creates a signal, electrical signal, basically ones and zeros, just like a computer, to our brain, which converts it into sound. Same thing with the light. The photons come into our optic nerve, travel into our brain. It then is interpreted and converted into the perception of light. All right, so all of this is based upon electricity. We are bioelectric avatars. And we'll explain that later, because we are here, but yet we're not here. We're of this world, but not of this world. Okay? And the manner in which it will be explained to you, it will make sense. All right? So let's go ahead back into our study. I just wanted to let those that had been making inquiry regarding what I was utilizing in my other medicinal remedies, what it is, in fact, that I have placed into my life for my particular regimen. And that's a part also of being proactive in ensuring that life is not simply doing me, that I'm doing life, and that I am, through my own abilities, being able. And by responding appropriately, then I am causing most of the things in my life to occur in the manner in which I want them to occur. So I am the cause, most, of what occurs in my life, opposed to just allowing things to happen haphazardly. And things don't occur simply out of serendipitous happenstance. There's enough factors out there that you do not have a power over, that it would be behoove of us to take control of those factors and facts in which we can control. And that's what I try to do. And I would suggest, or at least recommend, that it would be sound advice, logical, that you try that. You don't have to try to eat the whole elephant in one bite. Just a bit at a time. All right, let's get back into our lesson. Good evening, good day, and good morning. I'm Jonathan Bay, and this is More Talk, episode 11. What we're going to be talking about today is Cabala. Some pronounce it as Cabala. And what we're going to talk about is authentic Cabala. We're going to give you a perspective, not of scholars, but of practitioners. And in this series, you'll not only get an overview of authentic Cabala, but also the keys, the basic concepts, the ways of approaching this wisdom so that it can open to you. All right? Because it is a way of study, a way of thinking, a way of feeling, very different from our normal sense of things. And it requires, as any skill does, a mastery of the basics, the primal basics. So in our series of more than 20 or so sessions, we're going to cover all of those that are most important for you to know. All right, we're going to start with an overview, a general overview, because there's a great deal of confusion about it. There's a lot of data, a lot of information out there about Cabala. I think maybe 1,000 books a year are published on the subject. And almost none of them have anything to do about Cabala. It's just kind of a mishmash of some people's imaginations of what it should be, what it can be, their intuitions, their imaginations. But it's not their fault. There's a great longing to know what Cabala actually is, because it's a sensation that it's actually important and that it's powerful and that it has a grasp of something that's hidden in this world. It's called a hidden science for 3 reasons. 1, it has been purposely hidden by the practitioners of Cabala themselves, by the Kabbalists. Cabala started 4,000 years ago, around 1947, 8, before the Common Era. All right, and for that period of time, 2,000 years, until the beginning of the Common Era, the destruction of the Second Temple, it wasn't hidden. Okay, it was widely taught. You can think of the stories of Abraham sitting in the door of his tent, welcoming in travelers, showing his hospitality. what he's actually doing, he was feeding them, and he was teaching them about the wisdoms of Kabbalah. And the type of souls that lived at that time in this world were a little bit more defined than the souls that live right now, and they understood more, everything more naturally. But something occurred at the beginning of the Common Era, at the destruction of the temple, that made it impossible for people at that generation in the 2,000 years that followed to understand really anything about Kabbalah. And the situation, one of the situations that occurred was the encroachment of the forces that came behind Alexandria out of the Ptolemaic regime. Ptolemy was the 5th general of Alexander the Greek. And he is the individual who interjected himself into the ancient mystery systems of the great endemic empire, Egypt, as we would call it today. And after a great deal of bloodshed, he was allowed into the priesthood. Now, this is why you had a large global disbursement of the information and knowledge which has come to be known as the religions of the earth. Those that had fled so as not to be killed because they did not want to allow Ptolemy into the system. This is where you're going to find the beginning of the European pharaohs in Egypt, was at the onset of Ptolemy's reign. So that's why you would call it the Ptolemaic era. Okay, and that's where we get the term Pope, is from Ptolemy. And there's that'll be a whole another podcast when I trace from Ptolemy all the way through and explain how the popes came into being and the rise of that particular creed and credo. But for right now, we're going to talk about the speculations of what Cabala explains, okay, opposed to what people have been imagining that it is explaining. All right. So Cabala was hidden because the information was not available to the common person, and also there was information within it that the average person was not to be exposed to, because there is a great deal of power within Cabala. Now, the reason that this is being exposed now, at this particular era in time, is because this is a time for it to re-arise. Okay, we are entering into this new era, this new Moorish Renaissance, this time of this Aquarian age of enlightenment. And there is a shifting of things which will allow for the uplifting of fallen humanity to occur. All right? So I'm going to explain to you the inner workings of Cabala and the ancient mystery of understanding what it is, opposed to speculatively what people imagined that it is. All right? All right. Now, it's written in a very special language, unbeknownst to the average person. Okay, it's written in what they call the language of branches. Okay, it uses regular words like books, family, travel, all the hand, all of the other All the words that you see in the Kabbalistic books, like the Book of Moses, the Book of the Quran, the Torah, you know. But it only speaks, all these words are terms that stand for other terms, but don't deal with anything within this physical objective reality, within this subjective realm. It has to do with the, within this objective realm, it has to do with the subjective realm, the greater consciousness, okay? Now, the world we live in is not a world of causes, it's a world of outcomes. There's nothing in this world that we can do that actually has any effect whatsoever, that can have any effect on the upper or outer greater reality, out of which things that we see in this world take their roots. Okay, so anything that we do physically to solve our problems in this world have very little effect to do on the outcome. Only a connection to the roots, to the causal level of things, can have any effect on this world. And this is what Cabala deals with the reality of that metaphysical truth. Okay? All right, my back was poorly positioned, so I needed to take a moment to readjust my chair. All right, so we'll continue. The Kabbalists are not speaking of things in this world. They're talking about the abstract forces within the subjective realm that actually create things which occur in this world. And only a wise student can understand what's really going on, okay? And it's dealing within a particular manner in which there is a key of understanding. Unless someone understands the manner in which it is formulated, as well as the manner in which it is being presented, and what the codification of these meanings actually are relating to the student, then it will remain hidden. All right? So you have the root level and you have the branch levels. Okay. And also there's what's called the fire languages. And basically that's the Hebraic or Hebraic. The systems, which if you look at the lettering, much of it looks like fire. But that comes also from the hand and from the palm, and is a language that flows and speaks based upon the symbolisms and movement of the hand. All right? And it is in such a way that it is like fire. It's very fluid. All right? Okay, so let's go forward. All right, so we know that things that only a connection to the roots, to the causal level of things, can have any effect whatsoever on this real world. And that's what Cabala deals with. Our reality as a whole is structured in such a way that there's a world that exists above, so to speak, and a world that exists below. Okay? And the language of branches speaks towards what exists in the world below. Let's say the family, you'll read about it in the Torah. You know, it appears to be a story of the Jewish people, of family. Okay, a family will move to a location called the land, but the Kabbalist is not really speaking about this at all. They're talking about the abstract forces above that actually create these things and make them occur. Okay? And only a wise student can understand what's really going on here. This is the branch level, right? And this is the root level. So, unless a person learns how to read this language called the language of branches, you'll continue to see things as you now see things in this world. All right? All right, so now we're looking towards the hiddenness and the aspect of not understanding these hidden methodologies. People have still thirsted, have still needed, but they've had to fantasize, they've had to concoct things, they had to go according to what they could understand without correct teaching or inner properties that would allow for them to understand. Okay? Now we'll deal with these a little bit more detail when we go into some of the more basic concepts, but a couple of the major ones are that Kabbalah is Hebraic mysticism. It's not mysticism. It's not a religion. It predates religion. Religion is a disconnect of Kabbalah, okay, and a misunderstanding of Kabbalah, okay, because Kabbalists created halakha, okay, and the books, and those things which they consider to be the holy books, such as biblio-helio texts, which derived from that. So these are things that comes from that. However, it did not carry with it an understanding of the words. You'll have to interpret the words. So the relationship with Judaism is like Kabbalah amnesia. Okay, it's not a mysticism. It's a way of making a connection, a direct connect with those things that most would consider as magical or unfathomable, but it's only because you don't understand what it means. It's just like if you were to take a lighter out to a place where there were people that never, saw a lighter before. Yeah, it would be like a miracle, producing fire out of your hand. Something that they had no baseline understanding of relative to the technology and how it came into being. Okay, that it's magic, that it's something. The utilization of hidden upper forces to bring about situations that could not occur within this realm. But it's not. It's just, as we know, it's just technology. Okay. So understanding what is there within Kabbalah is an aspect of inner transformation. And most of what people teach it to be is just something coming out of their vivid imaginations. Okay. Some people say there's conditions, like you have to be Jewish or Hebraic. That's not true. Some of the greatest Kabbalists, of modern history, so to speak, modern history, Angelos, Kiva, and the list goes on, and all Kabbalists took worthy students, but not based upon some physical attribute or some type of tribal connection or ihu. We can explain that later. But that you had to have mastered a preliminary wisdom before you can study Kabbalah. Well, if you don't understand what's written in Torah or Gemara, then you're not going to understand Kabbalah either. So it's not that you need these preliminary wisdoms, that if you cannot find spirituality within these preliminary wisdoms, then you must move to books who speak directly to spirituality, such as things in which the Torah is written, and amulets and protections and symbols and number and manipulation to create things to protect people from evil. Well, this is complete and total opposite of what Kabbalah deals with. Matter of fact, this is forbidden. It's considered idolatry. Okay, to use it for some personal selfish reason. Plus, there's nothing to be protected from. Anyway, the amulets, the red strings, these are all psychological things that have absolutely nothing to do with Kabbalah. And then there's that mixture with the Eastern religions. Since we don't know anything, we intermix it with aspects of Hinduism or other Eastern misunderstandings, which just come out of earlier misunderstandings. And that's just because the books of Kabbalah or Cabala We're not open. Okay. Now, as I said earlier, there's been a change. Okay. So, with the changing of time and the positioning of our planet architecturally within the space scheme of our time reality, space-time continuum. Our planet is traveling through space and was destined to come to a particular place within the architecture of the greater system, almost like the hands of a clock. Okay, and that's where we are now. Okay, so these are the days in which the superstitions are to fall aside, and the sciences which actually Moorish science, metaphysics as well as physics, and an understanding of the spiritual aspects of science in connection with things such as Cabala. So since 1995, I guess it was, all of the books have been open. Okay. The only thing that is required is that you are seeking. Seek and ye shall find with an earnest heart. And that you have a desire and you have a need for it. That's the only prerequisite, is that you have a desire and a need for the answers that can be found within Cabala. Okay? And all of the great Kabbalists have said so. And they've always said the only thing that is required is a desire. And whenever asked, the masters will always say, when someone would say, who can study Kabbalah? They would say, anyone who desires to. Then you have these people that say, if you study Kabbalah, you'll go crazy. Well, it may appear as if you go crazy because there is a change that goes on with the understanding and connection of the wisdoms that are within reality. The pleasure, the source of the pleasure, is very different from the normal way of thinking. It's opposite. It's the kind of thought that exists within the spiritual world. So to someone who has an opposite goal to spirituality, someone may appear insane, all right? But not really. All right? So the third reason it's called hidden science is because it deals with what's hidden from our five senses. It answers a question that cannot be answered any other way. All right? It answers basically what is the meaning of life. That's just primary. Now this is a deep and severe question for someone who has this question that cannot find the answer to it in what their traditions tell them and what their science tells them, or their teachers have told them, or art or history or psychology has told them, and they still yearning for an answer to that question, what is the meaning of life? They're wanting to know that which goes beyond the five senses. Reality is divided into what we would call worlds. Okay? All right, so we're dealing with things that are hidden from our five senses. Okay? It's answering that question of what is the meaning of life. Okay? And it's hidden because that which is hidden from our five senses sits outside of that box that we spoke briefly of in episode 10. Okay. It answers basically what is the meaning behind life, or purpose of your being. Okay? All right. So what we're going to do today is to begin breaking down how the thought process of Cabala must take place. There's a hierarchy of understanding, not simply in degree, but in its structure. Okay? The books of Cabala tell us that we live in the whole of reality. There's a totality, and that's where we actually exist. Except for we have no sense of that. We have a complete restricted sense of what we are and where we are. So much so that we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow or the next moment in our lives. We don't know why they happen, where we came from, where we are, where we're going, as stated. Okay? There exists a complete reality that is greater than the perceived objective reality, and it's divided and reduced into a system called worlds. Okay? By means of 5 worlds. Okay? This first world is called the world of Adam Kadmon, and the next world is Absolute. The next is Bariya. Okay. Then the world of Yetzirah and Asiya. Okay. You can think of these as levels of consciousness. Closeness or distance as it descends from this complete reality, from connection and reality and your understanding of it, until finally you reach a true mahsum, true disconnecting point, or the barrier. Okay. Now, these are spiritual worlds, and below this barrier is our world. Okay. Here, we have absolutely no sensation of the spiritual world, of the place in where we actually live and come from. Now, if you remember in episode 10, we talked about Einstein and how he couldn't get outside of the box. Until near the end of his determination of his career, his retirement, when he made that statement, when they asked him about what is reality, and he said it is an illusion, but a persistent one. That's when he came into an understanding that the reality that we perceive here is not the greater reality, but this is a causal consciousness interpretation of sensations that are allowing for us to go through the process of growth and spiritual evolution. Okay. All right. So here we have limited sensations called corporal or physical. All right. This complete light and the whole of reality by which we knew this and was connected to it, we would be able to direct our destiny. We'd stop making mistakes. We would understand the forces that guide us. We would become connected to such a degree that we would be able to live life in its fullest and for the benefit of all life. And yet, just as Cabala itself has been hidden from us, so has this force, this complete reality, been purposefully hidden from us, reduced to, through these levels, by a system of 125 steps, okay, into this world. All right? What Cabala is meant for is to allow for a person to trace their steps from descent into this world back through 125 steps, all the way to our root in the spiritual world, our source, our connection with the total of reality, the all which is, all law, all of the forces that we call the Creator, the benevolent force that has created for us a map of creation. This world is not the destiny. We right now are still within the womb state. This is still pre-primal for all intent and purpose. We are still, can think of ourselves as embryonic, fetus-like in nature, relative to our conscious understandings of reality. That's how far we are from our true birth of understanding that from which we came. So we descended from our roots in the spiritual world to where we are right now in order to fulfill the plan of creation itself, to return to this total of reality. All of the books of Cabala, the Torah, the Mishnah, the Gemara, speak only of the states that are found in these levels, both of the reduction as our soul fell from this complete connection, complete oneness, and the states in which we find in the descent and our way back up. All right, we descended to fulfill this plan, to rejoin this total reality, the all of the cause and effect, all laws, Allah. Okay? So all these books of Cabala only speak about the states which are found at these levels. All right? And the states that we find on the ascent back up. All right? And the method of Cabala is the means by which a person can begin to sense the inner world. Now, in order to do that, one must be taught what they are made of, what it is that prevents them from entering into this world, and how they can gain a sense of their spirituality again. And this takes a very special material, very directly created for the purpose of allowing a person the means by which to enter this world, this spiritual world. So the language of branches is, it's understood that we have some difficulties in understanding it because there is a disconnect. But the great gift of Cabala is that in our generation, since 1995, when the wisdom was reopened to the world and those who really desire it, special books have been created. All right? And these books that have been passed from our ancient forebearers and now are required to be given back, okay, are now there for us to partake of. They're written in a language, a special language, which allows a person to get a foothold into the first rung of the ladder. And it's these lessons that we're going to take our sources, take a look at the quality of what it is that keeps us out of the spiritual world and what it is that will allow us in, and the method revealed through Cabala. Okay. The wisdom of Cabala teaches a practical method of attaining the upper world and the source of our existence by realizing our true purpose in life, perfection, tranquility, unbounded ascension, transcending time and space while still living in this world. All right. So now we're going to begin this exciting journey. Now, if you recall, we looked at a diagram. Okay. We live, our existence happens within a completely and total reality that depends on nothing, that is unbounded. Everything is interconnected, filled with infinite pleasure, complete knowing, and contact with everything that is in reality. But the practitioners inform us that for a certain purpose we descended from this way of existence through a system of worlds. Worlds are called olamim, from the word olam, which means tied or hidden. And we descended from this complete connection with reality until we reached a place, a crossover point, barrier. And our existence happens in a very, very minuscule, limited way in this world, our world. It has no sensation whatsoever with the spiritual world. A total disconnect. The physical world of corporality is completely separate from the spiritual world for all intent and purpose prior to entering into an understanding of the science that is revealed through Cabala. Okay? All right. So we are now looking at how to explain the purpose of life. Now, the Creator decided to create a creature and fill that creature with total delight. That is Now, there are those who have attained this enlightenment, and you will find that the purpose of life is to create a purpose, the purpose of existence that was designed by our Creator was to create a creature, us, and fill that creature with unbounded delight. Complete and total meaning, direction, purpose that ever can occur, will occur, only happens for that purpose. And that thought and that intention and that thought behind all creation, all the rules of everything that ever will occur, is set within that. Everything within the corporal and the spiritual world is all rooted in that one thought, and nothing that happens in this world happens for any other reason other than to create a creature and bring that creature to unbounded delight. So what is it that keeps a person out of the spiritual world? What is a person? Well, we have to understand our perception of this reality, the way in which we perceive reality, causes a hiddenness. This is a person. Closed box with 5 openings. Conceptually, these 5 openings are our 5 senses. Now, surrounding the person is an upper reality, a complete reality, which is spiritual. And from that complete reality, things approach us. What appears to be an exterior reality, an unformed something approaches the person or this consciousness, and through the five senses that we possess, we determine what reality consists of by our senses, by our sensations. And things begin to approach the box, but something odd happens here. It doesn't actually enter the box. What happens is it kind of hits a barrier, like a transducer, like an eardrum, or a retina, or a nerve ending at the top of the skin, or the taste bud. Instead of getting actually what's on the outside, it gets reduced, gets passed through this barrier, a program. And as it passes through the program, it gets interpreted into something that we can perceive, that we can understand. Once it passes through this barrier, and what it produces is our reality, our perception of reality. So it doesn't matter how sensitive the sensor is. Let's say our eye, the Hubble telescope, or you could be completely nearsighted and unable to see the thing directly in front of you. It doesn't matter about the degree of sensitivity. What matters is the programming, what happens here in the subjective system within this machine. Whatever comes into here can only be what this program says that it is. Not this, but a reduction that can be understood by the program. Okay? So what is the program that limits this? This is objective reality, and this is the limited portion of it that we can perceive. This program is called egoism, self-concern. What's in it for me? All right? How is this going to affect me? How's this going to benefit me? Now the person is locked into a subjective view of things relative to how it feels within the box. And at no point does it have any sense of what is happening outside of the box. So we have a problem because all of our five senses work exactly the same way. None of them can tell us what happens outside of the program. Nothing can tell us what is beyond the five senses until we can develop a sixth sense that can actually make contact with what exists outside, that's not bounded by the program. In order to do that, you have to need to do it. It is impossible to build a way to perceive anything outside of this box until we have a need to, or a greater desire, where we understand that we need to get out of the box. Now, until we get out of certain misunderstandings, because we are built as egoists. That is how we are designed. We were created as egoists. So there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, because that's how the Creator created us. But we have potential to improve. No one does anything in this world, whether it's an inner and outer thing, an inner thing, everything that happens happens only as a result. Well, let's look at it. You're sitting there. Maybe you're shifting in your chair, where your eyes are moving to. Maybe you've picked up some tea, water to drink. Everything that you are doing is a result of one calculation. You've become uncomfortable. A need has evolved in you, and you have moved to a new position or situation that will give you more pleasure than what you were in before, because you were uncomfortable, so you moved. So you are shifting to a pleasure from the displeasure. Now, there are ways in which to grow in this way. We all feel desires and we feel them change, but we don't really pay attention to the system placed in us by nature well enough to understand what it's doing for us. First kind of grasp of what pleasure is just survival kind of pleasures. We require food, sex, shelter. And all of our efforts, our work, what we perceive around us, our whole golden life has to do with getting and securing these things. Okay? If we are looking at just survival, and once we have that, then we recognize we need more. Then we'll move on to, let's say, wealth. And then when you fulfill that desire for wealth, then we come to the feeling of, well, is that all there is? And something else grows in us. But notice, it's not just another desire, but a greater desire, one that also encompasses the one before. We have a desire that has grown and requires a greater filling. Now, if you can't be filled by wealth, then it's going to move to power. The whole evolution of history has been a series of the manipulation and securing of things to meet these goals and desires. Political power, empire, control in the job, and we're looking at that greater desire, power, that also passes. And the next desire would be, well, knowledge. Okay? And then there's a barrier there as to what we define as what we need in the physical world, these 1, 2, 3, 4. What do we perceive as pleasure? What are we being filled with? What do we want? What will satisfy us? Well, knowledge is science. It's religion. It's art. It's the pinnacle of what we perceive humanity could possibly achieve. But anyone who seriously delves into this very great desire and attempts to fill it, eventually will discover that this is empty as well. That there's no real answer in corporal science. Now, religion gives us belief, but it doesn't give us access to what we really want. And people become become empty. And then a new desire comes, but it's not a desire from this world. It's a desire that is placed within our heart, the sum of all desires before it. But there's a desire that comes from a completely different level, the greater reality. And what appears inside of our heart is a point. It's a part of the greater reality. It has an aspect of spirituality. If this desire becomes fulfilled, unlike these, it grows until it fills our entire existence, until it can bring us into the spiritual world. So what is an upper reality? Well, it consists of a particular quality. We were created in the exact opposite phase of what is in the upper world. And that's why we can't perceive it. That's why we cannot sense it. We know from this illustration that what is in this box, the person, the human, that's egoism. What's inside of this box is ego, or will to receive. Will and desire to receive. And that makes us experience limited suffering, isolation, and all the things that we find difficult about life. And what exists outside of this, in the non-subjective condition of egoism, is an objective reality. Kabbalists inform us is called the will to bestow. Now, the will to bestow is unconditional altruism. In other words, the experience out here is unlimited existence, unbounded pleasure, and delight. Yet, we can't feel this because we have no means to get there, or do we? There's a quality in the spiritual world that differs also in its quality from the physical world. In the physical world, movement, what would get us from one place to another, is purely mechanical. I could take two objects that are completely different in their form, even in their purpose, and I can draw them close together or bring them close together, and then we say we have closeness here. Okay, that's physical, that's mechanical, but in the spiritual world, can only be considered close under completely different means, because there is no time, there is no space. So there is no this. In the spiritual world, there's only spheres of influence and feeling, inner qualities that all movement in spiritual reality deals with similarity and dissimilarity, okay, between two states or two qualities. In other words, we can see this in friendship. If my friend takes a certain delight in comedy, and I don't care for comedy, I'm just a serious person, it's not very likely we're not going to be close friends. And if I hate comedy, then we're considered distant. But if I love comedy and I love the same type of comedy as my friend, then in this respect of the love of comedy, then that would mean that friend of mine and we are close in our similarity, because two feelings, two attributes are similar, then it's considered to be close. If they're different, then it's considered to be distant. But this is the most precious thing about it, that actually can move us from the physical to the spiritual, that if they have the exact same quality and purpose and intention, then they are the same thing. They are bonded. connected. And it's this law, called the law of equivalence of form, that gets us from our egoistic state of separation to be able to build an additional sense, a sixth sense, to grasp the outside. A similar frequency. We need to build a similar sense, quality of this bestow within it, even though we're not capable of perceiving it in its explicitity. But there's only two things that exist in reality: the creator and the creature. The quality of the creator and the quality of the creature. That's all that exists. Creature is the lower world, the root, and creator is the upper. Quality of the creator is the will to bestow. Quality of the creature is the will to receive. That's all that exists. And getting out of the box means what we need to do is move in spiritual space, means to change this quality, the will to receive, quality of the creature, to become more and more similar to the quality of the creator. The way in which all of this has been hidden through descent, through all these worlds are only made up of ratios of the will to receive in comparison to the will to bestow. And this, in fact, can be climbed by changing our inner quality of perception, egoism, to greater and greater ratios of the will to bestow rather than the will to receive. Every one of these steps of the ladder are increasing ratios of the will to bestow over the will to receive. And as we learn what bestow actually means, to instill that similarity within ourselves, to be able to sense bestow, to create that inner similarity, quality of our Creator, is what will allow us to begin the process of returning to that from which we came. And there's much more, and we'll continue.